What's up, guys? Long time no see. It's good to be back. I'm laughing at myself in this moment because it feels kind of odd to talk to my camera again after not talking to you guys for a while, but at the same time, I've really missed making content. And I'm trying to get back into it. Again, I know I often say, especially when I haven't posted a video in a while, I often say, I'm trying to be more consistent, and I often fall short at doing that. But it really comes from a genuine place every time I say that, because I genuinely enjoy making content. I genuinely enjoy creating videos and talking to you in hopes that what I have to share with you actually helps somebody else, because that's the whole point of this channel. Not only that, but that it creates some kind of community for people, and in hopes that I could be a friend or a sister to someone else. So all to say, I'm glad to be back, and I thought to make my new video after not posting in over a month, to give you an update on what's really happening in my life. And so one of the things that I more recently being really start of this year especially, but it's been something that's been building up, has been trying to learn how to take care of my body again and really prioritize my health. Even as I say this, I'm actually taking a walk, so I'm having you join me on my walk. But 2025 is a year that will go down in history for me, because it was a year that in 2024 I really purposed in my heart, and I prayed to God, asking him to say there are these things, specific things that I want to fulfill in the coming year. So I'll give you an example. In 2025, well, I'll pretty much just state what it is, but in 2025, I had my first author paper published in Nature Metabolism, which is a great scientific journal. What else happened? I got married in 2025. I also got into graduate school. I was applying to graduate schools in 2024. And I started graduate school in 2025. I also got to see my family. So it was just a number of things that were real highlights for me that I really wanted to accomplish. As at 2024, I was like, God, I really want these things to work. I want to be able to do these things, but I need you to help me. And it panned out. It was that year where it's sometimes even in my Christian walk, I pray about certain things, but there's a part of me that's will it happen? And truthfully, sometimes I'm fearful, even to say, Lord, let your will be done, because sometimes I'm scared. And as much as I know to say that God's will for my life is better than anything I could ever imagine, there are times when I'm I'm afraid of you saying no to something that I think I really want and really need. And so, in short, I'm afraid of God's rejection. And so for me, it was a thing of God, I'm asking for a lot of things, because those were big things. And at the time, I wasn't even talking about a specific journal that I wanted my paper in or anything like that. I just really wanted for these things to happen. And I was just Lord, please make these things happen for me, and things went from there. I'm sorry, I'm walking in a green area and I'm just praying in my heart to say, Lord, please keep me safe. But anyway, there are also other people here, so I'm happy. Yeah, side note. But yeah, so like lost my train of thought. Yeah, anyway, so those are the things that I was praying for, and I was like, Lord, these are big things to me. They're not things that, you know, happen every day or every year, you know. And I was like, God, please help me be able to accomplish these things. And all those things panned out. And for me, it was a big lesson to say that there are times when the things that I desire for my life are part of God's will for my life. And not so to say, like, I shouldn't be fearful to ask the Lord and say, you know, may your will be done. At the end of the day, God's will be done. But for me to be able to communicate that without fear, to say that I'm going to face God's rejection, that was an important lesson to me. And so if you follow my other channel, you know, probably saw the videos, especially like when I got into grad school, and just like, you know, what that first semester was like, and I talked about those things. But there's a side to things that I never really talked about, and that is that there was a cost to being able to achieve those things. And the cost of that was primarily my health, my physical and my mental health as well, you know, really suffered during that time. So if you recall, or if you've watched my last video where I talked about like my fitness, I believed at the time I was weighing about 214 pounds. But as of May 31st of this year, I was weighing 262.1 pounds, which is crazy when you think about it. I gained roughly 50 pounds, and I was like, you know, it was because I really did not prioritize my health. And that was the cost for me at the time, primarily also because I just didn't have good boundaries with myself when it came to my health. And so it was very difficult for me navigating that period, because I, you know, at the time when I talked about like my health and trying to get fit again, you know, and when I made content about that, I was really serious about it at the time. But I think there were more things, like I mentioned, my boundaries, that I really had to set in place for things to follow through. So I mentioned my paper, my publication. So at the time, end of like 2024, I was applying to graduate schools. I was planning my wedding, and I was also doing revisions for my scientific publication. And if you are familiar in any capacity with the revisions process, you may be requested by journals, reviewers, to do certain things or do certain experiments to address certain questions, or you may want to address those things in order for the paper to be reviewed and potentially submitted. And so I was doing those revision experiments all the way going into 2025. And so it was a big workload, truthfully. At the time, I was doing a lot in my personal life, and also in the professional side to things. And I was stressed. Honestly, I was stressed. I didn't prioritize myself. I didn't prioritize my physical health. I didn't prioritize, and when I say prioritize my physical health, I wasn't going to work out, you know, at some point, because I was like, oh, I need to do this, I need to do this, need to do this experiment, need to do all this. And I think in part, you know, looking back in hindsight, there are certain things that are a matter of just like having better time management and better planning. But yeah, 2025, 2020, end of 2024, 2025, I wasn't doing those things. I wasn't, you know, exercising as consistently anymore. And you know, at the time when I was exercising, I started to see, those gains, like my triceps were getting more defined, I was losing back fat, and I was so excited. And to see myself like start to lose that momentum was very disappointing at the time. But it was like, at the time I felt like, you know what, I'm drowning. I need to do all these things, and then also prioritize my health. Like, it just seemed impossible to me at the time, and of course I gained weight. You can see me now, I'm talking, you could probably hear me panting even when I'm like walking on stairs. And for me that was very worrisome because I'm so young. I just turned 27. To me, that's still very young. So I was concerned about that at the time, but I was like, I need to fulfill all these things, I need to do all these things, so there's just no time for me. And I think I also had the habit of just not prioritizing myself in general, like not giving myself equal importance, or if not more importance. Overall, a lot was going on, and there are a lot of like hindsight things that I can look back at and be like, okay, I could have done this differently, now I know better. All to say, it was very easy for me at the time to put myself on the back burner. And the result of that was, not only did I gain almost 50 pounds, but also I started to suffer in other areas of my health, and that has been quite difficult for me. I think even like getting back into working out has not been the easiest journey for me, just because, outside of like driving yourself or pushing yourself to like go, say, to the gym every day or walk every day, I think there was also just a lot of guilt that I had and a lot of shame. Because when you gain weight, depending on what your body type is, for me, I realized that I hold weight when I gain past a certain threshold. I tend to hold the weight in my upper body now, and your body starts to change. Clothes don't look the same way, on you. Your cardiovascular health, it changes, and you can tell from how fit you are when you walk up steps or when you take a walk. Like, your breathing, things change. And I just felt very limited in terms of the things that I was able to do, which made me carry a lot of guilt and a lot of shame, because I was like, how could I have let myself get to this point? And truthfully, sometimes I still feel like that. What I'm talking about right now is like very recent. It's not something that happened so far back in the past. I'm talking about things that I am experiencing and experienced like a couple months ago or a month ago, really. So if you're listening to this and you're going through something similar and you're wondering like if I'm really talking so far back, no, I'm really not. I would completely understand if you're currently going through the same thing. But yeah, I carried a lot of guilt and shame. I think I've definitely gotten better at managing that, just out of doing a lot of like the actual exercise, but also a lot of the mental work, which I'll talk about in a bit. But yeah, I carried a lot of shame just looking at how I look. Like, even pictures, I stopped taking pictures. And initially that happened subconsciously until like, my husband Lano, he likes to do photography. It's one of his like biggest hobbies, very talented at it. And he kept asking me like, oh, do you want to do like a photo shoot? I'd really like to, practice this. I'd like to do photos for you. And I just couldn't get myself to do it because like in that moment, I acknowledged to myself and to him to say, look, I don't like the way I look, and I don't feel confident about taking pictures with the way I look currently, and yeah, I think like acknowledging that in itself was also difficult, because it's like, okay, you're really owning it to say it's hard for me to even embrace, the what I'm feeling right now. And being at a point where you're feeling so much shame, it doesn't feel great. But yeah, it started with that. Tracing back how this happened, so essentially what I've shared with you right now. And then starting to try to do the work. So another thing that I struggled with, in terms of starting to do the work, was the trauma associated with my body image and my weight, which I shared in my first video where I talked about like my fitness. When something really disturbs you, especially in your childhood going into your adulthood, that involves other people, I think it's great when you get the opportunity to confront the situation, especially like when they were saying it, it's like, oh, they really didn't mean any harm. Like, I think it's great that you get to do that. But there's also a reality that getting to talk and confront the situation doesn't automatically erase years of hearing certain comments made about your body. And that can at times be very difficult. At least for me, it was difficult because I was like, it's not like I hold any resentment, towards the people involved. I understand, and I appreciate the apologies, but I think it's more so now me having to like do the work of reshaping my own idea or image of my body, and being able to give myself healthy criticism where needed. You also have to do the work of healing, beyond the situation and beyond the people involved. Because the other thing I didn't want to do is have to keep bringing it up whenever I remember, how something affected me. I didn't want to keep bringing it up. That's also not, I don't believe that's fair to the people involved, especially when they've apologized, sincerely. All to say, that's another reality of mine where it's like, oh, I now have to do the work of healing, when it comes to my body image. And it was very difficult for me to start to do the work because it meant confronting that for myself, to say, look, I didn't ask for this, I didn't want to be talked to a certain way for years, but that's my reality. Now I need to confront this thing for me to get to the other side where I can live my life and look at myself with an accurate perception of myself and what I look like. My husband, Lano, like he really supports me even now through that journey, and he supported me, at the time to say like, no, let's walk, let's do this together, like come with me, let's go, because he's also very serious about his own fitness. So let's say you don't have or see that person in your life. Sometimes also it just takes talking to people. Like a few of my friends at school noticed that, I talk about like, I want to take a walk after lunch. So I usually aim for 8,000 steps every day, which I don't always fulfill, to be honest. I started like really low and then started to build up on my steps, which I'll talk about in another video because this one is getting long. But like my friends knew to say like, I walk. And what I would do is like in the morning, I would walk like 1,000 to 2,000 steps. At lunch, I would walk like 1,000 steps, make sure I get 1,000 steps, and then walk in the evening after I get back home. And so my friends noticed, like I would say like, yeah, I need to take a walk, and they would tell me to say like, you want to take a walk, like, can I join you, like can I walk with you? That would be really helpful, because at the end of the day there's a benefit to these things, and a lot of people are stressed, especially when you're a student. You're going through it, like just being able to walk, take a break from routine is really helpful. At the same time, you're also contributing or, improving your health, So yeah, sometimes it's just about like you talking about the things that you're doing, and you never know who may, just ask you to be like, oh, can I walk with you? So you can find community in that. The other thing, that I hope you can get from this interaction and from this channel is a buddy in me. I really also want to, like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, to be a source of community to somebody else. It's a journey for me, one that I'm excited for, but it has its ups and downs because I'm in the process of establishing discipline with myself. And so there are days where I'm like, I'm doing this, let's go, I'm pumped for it, I have the motivation for it. But other days, it's like, I really don't have any motivation to do this, I'm not feeling it, I don't want to do it. But that discipline has to kick in. So yeah, that's me. I'm learning how to take care of my health. And there's of course another side to it, which is diet. For the most part, like even before I started prioritizing my health, I was doing pretty well in terms of diet, in terms of like what I actually eat. I do my best to primarily like make my meals from home. I like to cook, so it works out for me in that way, and I try my best to eat as healthy as possible. So that wasn't a problem. The problem was I wasn't keeping track of just how much I was eating and how much of a calorie intake I should actually be taking, what is reasonable for me. So to say, this is me introducing and talking about, just what's been going on in my life from the perspective of learning how to shift things and have good boundaries with myself and not place myself last on my priorities. A lot of the things that we struggle with are internal things that manifest in these other areas. Things such as just prioritizing yourself as much as you do your obligations or other people, or maybe even more. Because when you prioritize yourself, you get to even show up better for these other commitments you may have and for other people. So I hope you enjoyed this conversation, and yeah, I'm looking forward to talking to you guys again. All right, I gotta go now. Bye guys, take care, love you.